This turns out okay, um, but I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to assemble these pop-outs a pretty fast and easy way. There's no fast and easy way, but the first thing you want to do is put the rubber on the glass, and where I always do right here is, see, this is the emblem, Sigla glass, fakey Sigla, but that's same difference. You put the emblem, so is the emblem on this is on the top of the glass. So I always put the seam on the top. Now the reason I put the seam on the top is because eventually that seam's going to crack open again, and almost always they do eventually. And if it's on the top, there's less chance of water settling on the bottom, on the bottom of the frame. So it's better if it's on the top, and there's less water coming down and working its way here than there is up here, because it has the rail to protect the water from flowing down. So that's the way I do them. I'll show you the next step here in just a second. We're going to take I'm going to set this up real quick, and then we'll go from there. So you can see that's the glass. This is the top of the glass. That's where the emblem is. The trick is you got to make sure that the emblem is in the right place for each side. So on the right side, they're going to be in the top left corner. On the right side, they're going to be in the top left corner. So when you assemble these, you have one direction here, you have this, and you have the holes on the other side, right? So you need to make sure that, the first couple of them you can kind of almost willy-nilly it, just make sure it's in the corner, upper corner, but then when you get towards the end, you're going to need to make sure that, when you do your front ones, they're the opposite. Remember, the front ones hinge forward so that the window opens forward. So when you do those two, you need to make sure that the emblem's still in the corner so that it looks the same. Just if you want it to be right, that's the best way to do it. Let's take a look at this in a second. So one side at a time, what you do is you slide on your frame like this, and what I'll do is I'll show you how I do it. Let's take a look here, one-handed. I'll do like a little bit like this, like that, and then I'll slide it on. A little bit of an angle, just a little bit like that of an angle. Then I'll just slide it on dry. I do not put any lube on here. If you put lube on here, what's going to happen is you need it to be nice and dry, because your rubber will start coming off the glass. It'll be fighting you. It's just easier to try it dry if you can do it. Okay, there you go. So you have to make sure that all this is all lipped over the edge. Let's do a non-focus thing again. All the way around. Make sure that it's on the edge and not tucked underneath. If it's tucked underneath, you're going to have to take it back off and do it again until you get it just right, and you get it just set like this. Okay, now's the part where you need the tools. What you need is 2 clamps. Now I got to remember where they are. There's 2 clamps that I have to do this, and yeah, all they are is basically, the clamps you use to glue wood together. They have them at Harbor Freight Tools. They're very, very cheap. I used one of the plastic ones and one of the metal ones. So let me get those in here, and we'll set this in the frame, and I'll show you how to do this part. So these are the tools you're going to need here, along with a screwdriver or a screw gun to put your screws in after you're done. If your screw holes are stripped out and you're trying to use the originals, make sure that you use a 3.5 millimeter tap, or if you go to 4 millimeter, you get the proper screws from Wilson West that fit here. Because if you don't use the exact right screws, it just won't assemble. It's very, very tight tolerance. So these are the tools I use. You can actually have 2 metal ones. I don't know where my other metal one is, and do the same thing. but the plastic one's kind of helpful because it has a trigger. But if you get one that's kind of tight, you're going to break in the plastic trigger from the Harbor Freight tool one. And I broke one of them already. I had 2 plastic ones, and then I got the metal ones, and I can't find one of my metal ones. So now I'm using a plastic and a metal, and it seems to work, get the job done. So let's take a look how we do that. All right, so I mean, if you have 4 of these things, it even helps more, makes it a little bit easier. But you can do this with 2, no problem. So you want to clamp it both directions. So what I do first is I just kind of use one, push it into place, kind of get it close. Then I'll take it back off again, and I'll show you what I do. So I just kind of put them on wherever, pull it in nice and tight as best I can, and then stop, take this clamp back off. This is the one that's going to be the problem. And I will put this one on the very end up here, and then I'll tighten up that part of the window. Let's take a look at that. Alright, so now I have this clamp on the top of the window, and you need to leave yourself some room with your side clamp. And what I've done now is I've clamped this portion together. It's pretty self-explanatory when you start doing it. And I'm going to go ahead and put these 2 screws in right here. And then when I'm done with that, then I'll do the other side. Let's take a look. Alright, so one of the things to keep in mind is make sure that you get your glass from a Volkswagen shop, because if you get your glass just at the glass shop, it has to be exactly the right thickness. If it's just a hair different, you will fight yourself so badly trying to put these on that it just won't be worth it. So what I did is I got these 2 in. Make sure you do not over tighten these. There's only just a little tiny bit of threads, so yeah, keep that in mind. You don't need to get them very tight. In fact, the rubber itself stretching and pulling will keep them in place without them being very tight. So don't get them very tight at all. You know, probably in the inch-pounds category. I don't think you'll even get to a foot-pound. I don't know what the torque spec is, but you guys can figure that out. Just really, really not very tight. If you strip one out, then you know you did too much. Make sure you don't strip out the next one. Okay, so let's take a look at the other side. I'll clamp that side together, and then we'll put the screws in there. So if you notice here, I've moved the clamps over to this side, the same position, a little bit close to these 2 screws, and right near the edge here on this side, so that I can, and I've tightened, all I did was I just tightened that up, and I actually broke the trigger on this one. So now I'm going to have to go to the store and get another, I won't get another plastic one if I can't find my metal one. Maybe I'll find the metal one real quick, I don't know. Maybe they're just not that hard to find right now. And that's how I get mine tight, just like that. Very, very, very loose. I don't get them very tight. I use a drill just because I'm lazy. And I know the feel. I wouldn't recommend trying this if you're not. That's it, just barely in there. Okay, so then take your clamps loose, push the button here. This one's the best one. These clamps are, you know, these things, the metal ones are only a couple dollars more than the other one. So they're better. I just was just saying I have one plastic one, that's what I use. Ta-da! The trigger broke off. Harbor Freight junk. This is Harbor Freight too, and it's been pretty good. So the metal ones are actually not bad. Get the metal ones. Okay, so that's that for putting the glass in the pop out. So this one will go on the right side. I didn't really worry about where it was going to go. It's going to go on the right side, rear. Okay, I need to make one more just like this. Okay, and then the other ones will be, this could actually go on the driver's side front too. Or no, it couldn't, because it's got the sigla on the wrong end. I want the sigla over here. So this one goes on the right rear because it's got the sigla the emblem over in the top corner. All right, so that's for this portion of the glass. I'll go ahead and get you guys started on the putting the rubber in the edge. This is what takes the time. Doing this portion does not take as long. It's putting this rubber in here that does take a lot more time. I'll show you a little bit about how to do that, but just be ready for a nice long day and a fight, and you know, taking your time doing that. So again, the seam will be in the top middle. Some guys put them at the bottom, like I said, but if it's at the top, there's less water gathering there, so the chances of it getting in there and rusting once this does finally split is a lot less. Fine. There's two different ways to look at these, and let's see, this side here is the outside that has the groove in it. This side that doesn't have the groove, this side like that, is the inside of the glass, so it goes on the glass like this. I'm going to go ahead and stick some in for you. Okay, how this is done is by on the side that's facing the outside, you pinch it like that. You pinch it and push it in. I can do this with one hand, this portion. Kind of. You see how you pinch it, and then there you go. I can't see that I got that in the camera, probably didn't. Like that. Put it in and pinch it. Put it in, pinch it. Stick it in the groove, pinch it. Now, that's only half of it. So push it all the way along like that as far as you can, in really good, and then flip the glass over and put it in. I'm just going to use this tool. This isn't really the right tool for this, but you can use a screwdriver. You can use a lot of things to do this, and just work your way around, pushing it back in on the other side. Now this seems pretty easy till you get to the corners. Now let me tell you about the corners again, because I did mention this in other videos, but I'm going to mention it one more time. So it'd be a good idea to invest in some of these. The Harbor Freight tools, they're like $2. Okay, but when you do the corners, let's talk about those for a second. If you notice, my corners, if you get a brand new one and you look right here, they are going to be crimped in right here on the corner. So before you paint these, even if you've done it after, that's fine. You're going to have to do it now. You have to pry this back up so that these are exactly flat all the way along. If they're crimped in a little bit, take a look at yours. They're brand new pop outs. They're going to be. And they're all made from the same people, guys. So there's only one people who make these. And if they're crimped in, you're going to need to bend those back out to be straight like that. Otherwise, you'll never get the corners together. So, or you'll get it, but it'll be not worth it. So, anyway, you just work your way around the whole window like that, and then you're done with the pop out. Just put it in place. That's it for the pop outs. So that kind of gives you the idea of how to do it. I can't show you how to fight the corners other than what I've just showed you just now, and that's about all I can do as far as showing you on this. But I hope it helps out, and good luck with your bus.